Welcome to Social PR Secrets. My name is Lisa Beyer, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Adam Singer. At the time of this interview, Adam was with Google. He was a Googler, and he was an evangelist for Google Analytics. What does that mean exactly? Adam's going to share with us in this episode, and we're going to talk about measuring what matters when it comes to social media and using Google Analytics to do so. Welcome, Adam.
Hi, everybody. So we've almost made it across the finish line. We're in our last week and probably one of the most important weeks. And we have a special guest who I'm going to introduce you to. Adam Singer is with us from Google. And Adam is also a graduate of the University of Florida College of Journalism. Hi, Adam.
Hi, I'm actually a graduate of the College of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism, but I did take some journalism courses. So just to clarify.
That's fine. Okay, so Adam, the reason why I picked you is because besides you're awesome, but you've done such an awesome job at merging public relations in your career, public relations, social media, and analytics, and so good of a job that now you've landed a job as your title is what? Google Analytics Evangelist?
I'm the analytics advocate at Google. So actually my boss is the analytics evangelist at Google. So one day, if I get promoted, I guess I would have his title, and he'd move on to VP or something.
So you're on your way there.
We hope.
And so besides working at Google as the analytics advocate, you also have an awesome blog. Tell us a little bit about the blog so that we can all follow.
Yeah, so I keep a blog on digital marketing called thefuturebuzz.com. Actually, the reason I got into digital marketing sort of before digital marketing was a thing was in college. I had to get a part-time job, and so I was working at McAllister's Deli briefly in Gainesville, which you guys probably all know, and I was also running websites for fun and profit at the same time. Eventually, my websites in college were making more than I could have made working at the deli in a month, and so I decided, hey, this is smart. I should keep working on this. And there wasn't actually a school at the time to get involved with digital marketing, so I had to figure all this out on my own. And I was really into hospitality management. I wanted to do event production, event promotions, and work in a big hotel chain. But then I discovered how much of a passion I had for the internet. I was always an internet geek. It just didn't seem like that was a viable job until after I graduated. And so, just as a passion of mine, I decided to share what I was doing on my own blog, which is where the idea for the Future Buzz came up from.
Awesome. So now you're at Google and you're in this hangout with us. And so over the weeks of this course, we've talked about everything from Facebook to Twitter to Google+, LinkedIn, visual social media, and the class is social media management. So now we're talking about measurement. And we've touched on it each week, but now we really want to hear from you. So, why does measurement really matter? How do we figure out what data to use and look at? And tell us a little bit about Google Analytics.
Sure. So there's a lot of questions. Measurement matters for a lot of reasons. First of all, is you won't know how to improve what you're doing in life, in business, in really anything without getting that data, without getting that feedback. And so once you know what to improve, then you can report on it as well to stakeholders. You can show your boss how you've grown your community 100% this quarter, how you've acquired 50 new leads, and 20 of them became customers, how you were able to get X amount of exposure for a product launch for your brand. But you can't do these things if you're not measuring. And so this is really important. I think that if you're in any facet of communications, whether you're going to go into the journalism side and be a publisher, data is really important to understand the success of your stories, as well as how your stories are generating revenue for your site, as well as if you're on the brand side, you actually need to use data to understand the success of your product launches, to see what people are talking about, what's actually working with the blog posts and the content you create. So it's important for everyone, and understanding how you're going to use that data, how you're going to report on it, and to whom is also equally important. So, what I like to advise our users, whether they're a small business or a large enterprise user, is to start with creating a measurement plan. And so having that plan is important because it's going to indicate what you need to measure and how you're going to report on it. And basically, without that plan in place, I'm sorry, I think the lights in this. There we go. So we've got the green energy at Google. The lights go off every hour if you don't move. Having that plan is important. So I don't know, Lisa, have you gone through some like the basic elements of a measurement plan, or do you think it'd be helpful to go through that?
I think it would be helpful to go through that, and then also if you could explain, so you're at Google. Google's a search engine. What does Google have to do with social media?
Yeah. When you're creating a measurement plan, make sure that you start with business objectives. So what is a business objective? That would be something like top line revenue. That would be something that impacts the business. It would be maybe new subscribers to your blog or to your digital newspaper, or it would be new revenue for an e-commerce company. And even if you're not directly accountable for revenue, you should try and have that as part of your dashboard, and that way you can show how the top line marketing activities that affect KPIs like views to your site or share or social shares or other things Lisa's talked about promoting over the course, how those things actually tie back to revenue. And Google Analytics does a great job of that because we bring together what we call key performance indicators, KPIs, together with revenue, because different metrics that are further up the marketing funnel will roll down to revenue and subscribers, and the sort of harder return on investment oriented metrics at the bottom of the funnel. How does Google work with social? Well, that's a great question, Lisa. So everything from us indexing blog posts and tweets to your social activities that you engage in can also result in things like media coverage, can result in chatter on social networks, things like that, and we index all of that. And so, the web doesn't really happen in silos. Users don't think to themselves, okay, now I'm using a social network, now I'm using a search engine. It's a fluid experience for them. So as appropriate to our products, social is incorporated as part of it. And of course, Google owns some of the most popular social properties on the web, such as YouTube. And with analytics, we integrate with several products. For example, in Google Plus, in analytics, we give you some really good detailed metrics as to how content from your site is working on Google Plus, and how many people are sharing it, and how many people are clicking on links back to your site. So we try and integrate our technologies as much as possible.
Awesome. So there's so many different types of tools and platforms to choose from that you can get really lost. I mean, Facebook has insights, YouTube has its own set of analytics. We have Google Analytics that we're talking about now. Hootsuite has analytics. How do you piece it all together, and how do you really focus on, how do you decide what's the most important and what to use?
Yeah, that's a great question. And from an analysis perspective, you definitely want to have all of your data in one tool so you can have a holistic view of that data. Because if you have data just in these silos, right, in Hootsuite, and you're creating silos between social, web, and things like CRM data, things like offline conversion data, then you can't really understand that entire customer journey. And so, we offer tools for Google Analytics to be able to connect Google Analytics with Hootsuite, to connect Google Analytics with your offline data. In fact, Google Analytics is now so flexible that you can connect it with any offline data source you want. For example, one of our certified partners actually wanted to test, and they just did this for fun. They wanted to see if caffeine intake would impact productivity of their users. And so they have a single serving coffee maker in their agency where you have to swipe your employee badge to be able to get coffee. And so they measured when their employees were getting coffee, as well as they measured, they have project management software called Basecamp. They measured the usage of that software that their employees use to do their jobs. And so they were able to see that, in fact, for their team, the more caffeinated their employees were, the more productive they were in their Basecamp software. So if one of our partners is bringing together caffeine intake and they're measuring their employees using a coffee maker, you really can measure everything. And that's something that I would challenge you as you go into the world after college, as you get into a business, that you push businesses to break down the organizational silos that they might have and bring that data together, because you're just going to get such a more comprehensive view of the customer. Another great example of this is imagine a ski resort, okay? And when you go to a ski resort, you might buy tickets, you might buy lift tickets online, you might also register to stay in that ski resort's hotel online. And then when you go to the ski resort, not only will you buy things at the resort, such as meals, or you might buy some new skis or something, you'll also use your lift ticket to badge in on a ski lift. And so if that resort is tracking me, has a customer ID associated with me, and they're bringing together the data from their website when I'm actually signing up and buying a lift ticket to using that lift ticket, and then actually staying at the resort and engaging in activities there, they can understand what people really want, and they can provide such a better experience when they have data surrounding their users, as opposed to imagine another ski resort that's not measuring all of this. So, and they can market to me better when they have that data. So they might know that, hey, I only go to the resort, for 1 week out of the year, but I use my lift ticket a lot and I'm really an avid skier. That's a signal that they could use. Hey, they should be marketing to me more to come back at a different time of the year. Maybe I don't realize that I can ski in a different season that they have, fake snow pumped in. Just to get you guys thinking, but getting that data is really important. And so that's a best practice, is definitely bringing together all of your data sources. Thank you, Lisa, for asking that.
Yeah, that's an amazing example. And so we have a lot of public relations. They've declared public relations as their specialty in the College of Journalism. And I know, being in PR and mixing in social and search, it's still not exactly the norm to have access, if you're a public relations professional, to a company's Google Analytics. So how important is that?
Yeah, that's really important. So I've actually written a blog post on this, and I have been with 2 different public relations firms in my time on the agency side before deciding to join the brand side and go in-house at Google. And because I was with an SEO firm before my public relations firms, at the SEO firm, I would write all of the access to the different tools that I needed into my agreements with my clients, because I couldn't do my job without having access to the technical side of their website and be able to improve their CMS and tweak their site to make it faster and things like that. So when I got to the PR side, I decided to start writing these things into agreements as well, and that worked. And I think that organizations are realizing the power of giving insights to all of their agencies and all of their teams, not just one. And so that's definitely a challenge you might have to work at as you get into the business world. Is there's political issues, right? You have certain teams who don't necessarily want to share access to data. In a lot of these cases, it's because I don't think it's always because they have something to hide. I think in a lot of cases they're just afraid, right? That it's something that they've always done. They don't necessarily want that taken from them. But I think in a really good situation, in like the best possible clients you'll get, data will be shared freely. It'll be a really good team effort. So certainly you may have to pick your battles here. You might not be able to get access at all points. But if you can't get access as an admin, ask for user access. So with Google Analytics, or with most analytics packages, you can still get read access, not necessarily write access to that analytics data. And so at least you can get a dashboard and see, hey, here's how many new visitors are coming to the site every day. Here are the top social networks bringing traffic to the site. And at a very high service level, that's just really good data to have and make decisions based off of. So pick your battles, but I would say, fighting for access to data is really important, because, for example, if you take Lisa's advice and you create an awesome Twitter chat, right, and it's sending a lot of traffic to your website, to blog posts that you might reference in that chat later on as just one tactical idea, if you're not measuring that and taking credit for it, then someone else in a different part of the organization might, and that's not a good thing for you. You want to own your results.
That's a perfect example. I'm so glad you used that example. So we just have a little bit more time left. I want to hit on a couple more things. Talk to us about mobile and how mobile is fitting into the picture.
Yeah, so I think that not only, I mean, I've read reports from two different sources that say over 70% of Americans now have a smartphone. So I think the day will come where everyone has one. Even my mother has a smartphone now, right? And she's like been afraid of technology. So mobile's going to become increasingly important due to, well, first of all, we always have it with us and we're relying on it for news and information in a real-time way, but it's also really contextual. So if I'm getting, for example, if I'm looking for a pizza place in a city I've never been in, and I do a query for it or I ask my social network for it, I'm going to get results that are really relevant to me right then and there. So, most brands on a go forward are probably going to have mobile apps, and even if it doesn't seem to make sense to have a mobile app, you can get really creative. A great example of this is who's the toilet paper manufacturer? Charmin has an app called Sit or Squat, right? And what it is it's an app which in any city you're in, it will show you the closest public restroom, right? So it's a brilliant app. I travel a lot. I'm always in different cities, so I've used it to find a public restroom. If Charmin didn't do that, they'd have no business having an app on my phone. But now they have real estate on my home screen. I see them when I actually use my phone on one of my screens. And so that's really creative. As a PR pro, start to think like that about how you can create an app and get in front of your users in a way that is utilitarian, in a way that matters for them. So I think mobile is really important. Also, just on a basic level, if you're working at a company and they have a blog and a website, just make sure that experience is friendly on smartphones, because there's nothing more frustrating than looking for information while you're on the go, getting to a site that's just a really awful experience for you on your mobile device. And analytics will tell you that. Analytics will tell you how many people are coming to your site right now via mobile device and can help you make a business case if you don't have a mobile site yet to create one.
Okay, that's great advice, Adam. So a couple more things. So I noticed that you help run the Twitter account for Google Analytics. And also, do you run the Google Plus page?
I do.
Okay, so just wondering what it's like to run a be a social media manager basically for Google for those accounts, and any insights you can give us.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I've been advising brands on social since before most brands were on social. I actually dragged several large consumer brands kicking and screaming onto the internet. A large quick service restaurant, one of the top 10 in the country, I will not name them. They thought that it was a bad idea for them to be on Facebook, so I took it into my own hands to get them on Facebook in 2006, and now they're one of the largest brands on Facebook. So you have to get these people out of their own way with new tools and tactics. I'm sure Lisa's told you about that, how a lot of brands sometimes fear new things. It's a lot of fun for Google. So I've been part of the analytics conversation for many years, and so actually for the channels that I run for Google, I try and not share so much about us. I try and share the content that our users create, and I try and amplify the voices of the people behind my product that are using it, not Googlers, but actual practitioners. So that way, I'm incentivizing them to create more content, and also they're talking about my product in a more genuine way. Not that we don't talk in a genuine way, but to our communities, it's like connecting users with other users is really powerful, and so I try and amplify them. I try and give a behind-the-scenes look sometimes as to what our team is doing. I try and humanize Google a little bit, right? So I think if you want to follow us on @Google Analytics on Twitter and plus Google Analytics, I think we're a great example of a B2B brand in social. We're probably not the same types of updates you would expect from a consumer brand, because a lot of it is very technical. A lot of it is how to use our tools and do your job better. But from a B2B standpoint, if you decide to go to a technology company, I think we're probably a pretty good example to look at.
Okay, awesome. So one more question, Adam. So how do you advise students to embrace Google Plus from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint as a social media manager?
Yeah, I would use Google Plus in a similar way that you're using Twitter and LinkedIn as another social outpost. I still think having your own website and your own blog at the hub of your social strategy is very important. because ultimately you control the templates on that site, you control the calls to action, you control how it looks, how it's branded, and then use all of these other channels ultimately to funnel and drive people back to that experience that you control. So that way, not only you can communicate to them through social, but you can also, build your email list, build your blog readership, all of that good stuff as well. So any new social channel is generally always a new opportunity. So look at it like that. And if you're already curating content for one channel, it shouldn't be too much work to add a new channel to that process.
Okay, awesome, Adam. So do you have any last words of wisdom before we sign off here?
We also have a MOOC, which is a massive open online course. If you really want to dive deep into analytics, we'll provide some links to you as a resource. Lisa, we can do that. I can give you a list of links, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. That would be awesome.
And so that's coursework by Google. We dive into specific areas of analytics, and I would recommend becoming as data savvy as you can. It's just going to make you more valuable as a professional going to this space, and it's going to ultimately, I think it's going to be important to get you ahead quicker.
Okay, Adam, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And if our students want to follow you personally, the best place is at Adam Singer on Twitter. Anywhere else?
At Adam Singer on Twitter, plus Adam Singer on Google Analytics. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me directly. I'm adamsinger@google.com. Feel free to send me a ping with analytics questions, or if you're ever in Bay Area and you'd like a tour of Google, I'm always happy to do that for students.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Adam, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Social PR Secrets. If you like what you heard, check out the book on Amazon or follow our blog at socialprsecrets.com. This episode was sponsored by The Buyer Group, a social PR agency striving to keep our balance in the digital world, practicing public relations, social media, and search marketing, while occasionally drinking a glass of wine or two for the best creativity and results. Thank you all for tuning in. If you would like to get a free chapter of Social PR Secrets, go to socialprsecrets.com/free.